Now let's talk about keys. A key is the term when you take a specific shape, use it to cut the hole in a background, and then fill it with something else. On screen, this looks like you're actually putting a layer on top of the video, but that's not what's really happening. So where did the term key come from? Well, imagine a door with an old-style keyhole below the knob. As you walk closer and closer to the keyhole, you'll start to see what's in the room behind the door, while still seeing part of the outside. Since the two things look similar, as legend has it, that's how the term key came to be used. Let's look at some of the different key types and how we use these keys on the 3000. So what you're seeing here is a linear key or a luminance key. Sometimes the terms are used interchangeably. They do have specific places on a switcher, but for this particular demonstration, we're going to treat them the same. So I've got this in a linear mode. What a linear key does is it's going to take a look at this key signal and see how part of it is solid white, and then down below where the shadow is, it's kind of lower luminance intensity. Well, a linear key takes a look at those darker key levels and allows part of the background to show through it. Here's another example right here. I'm going to key this thing right here. And you can see in here, I've got some transparency behind where the water is pouring down here. You can kind of see it a little bit behind there when the leaf goes behind that. Well, again, if we simply look at the key signal, you can see that part of the whites are very bright, and if you go back and forth, you can see where there's nothing seen, where it says the time and the date. You can't see anything behind it or the word live. But in the middle, underneath the text, where it says eyewitness to carnage, and my son, who always seems to be an eyewitness to carnage, you can see underneath here that the key signal is darker, and that tells the switcher to let some of the stuff through. And you see here, you can see her hand back there. So that's the linear key. But we also have luminance keys, color vector keys, key white pattern keys, and chroma keys, which we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. So now let's come back to the panel over here and show once again how we get sources into the keyers. So here on my delegation row, I have DSK1, and notice that it's a red tally since it's on the air right now. That's what's keying the MVS 3000 logo. And right now I have frame memory 3, which is the built-in still store and clip player inside the switcher. I have frame memory 3, and I can switch between 3 and 7, and they are two different keys. Now this is remembering the key signal, because remember we set up the auto-selected key signal in our setup earlier. So I've got frame memory 3 and frame memory 7. So that's how I change the sources to the keyers. This is all on keyer 1. So now that we've shown how to change the sources going into the keyers, let's see how we can get the keyers on and off the screen. So you can see here in my key area that DSK1 is on. Now there's two buttons for each keyer. We have an on button, which toggling it will just cut the key on and off. And then down here we have a transition button, which will perform a transition, which is going to be pretty much like the left side, where I change between mix and non-additive mix and wipe. Up here I have a choice for each keyer of mix, wipe, and DME. So in this case, DSK1 is on a mix. So when I do transition, it's going to mix in. If I go to wipe, it will wipe on and off. And if I go to DME, it will DME on and off. Now, on the DME side and the wipe side, I can double punch this, just like I did over here, and up comes my patterns. So again, I can hit this button, I can have it zoom in and out, or I can have it do many other things. Or again, just a little slide over. Same with the wipe. I double punch it, and I can create different wipe patterns to bring my key on and off. Lastly, let's talk about key priorities. So over here we have this logo, and on my second keyer, I brought up this over-the-shoulder graphic that might be used for a newscast that goes over the anchor's shoulder. Now in this case, I want the MVS 3000 logo to be on top of the over-the-shoulder graphic. So down here, I'm going to set key priority as a transition. This little graphic here shows me the key priority. The current priority is showing me that 4 is on top of 3, which is on top of 2, which is on top of 1. The next priority is going to be 1 on top of 2, on top of 3, on top of 4. If you want to change that, by the way, the priority set button, you can double press it and it will take you to a menu on the screen. You have key priority, which is current. You can see again 4 on top of 3, on top of 2, on top of 1. And then the next priority, which is what it will be after the transition. To execute this transition, I set my transition type to key priority. Remember, normally it was on background, where I'm just going to change the background. If I change to key priority, watch what happens. It does a transition between the two types of key priorities. You can actually see the graphic changing both here and on the menu display.